when we have a really good understanding of our human values, self-direction, stimulation, hedonism, achievement, power, faith, security, tradition, conformity, humility, universalism, benevolence. When
Yeah.
you have an understanding of where you sit, which ones are important to you, then we know what drives our decisions. We know what drives our motivations. We know what drives our actions, which makes things so much easier to understand,
Yeah.
especially if you notice that maybe there's a breakdown when it comes to your actions mapping to your goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe
Exactly.
values
Yeah.
are the explanation for that.
Yeah, and this is where the rubber meets the road, because it's this theory that's fascinating in theory, and we can do these tests and think, okay, these are my top values. And I actually did partner with the company that made the best values testing instrument in the world, to create. To create a values testing instrument for the book that's rooted in the actual science, in the methodology of this research. But it's fascinating because we have all these goals, and so if you look at the nature of follow through and what we don't do, we all have kind of this graveyard of goals, right? And that when we look at our past, it's like, oh, I didn't achieve that, or I didn't achieve that. And the thing that most of them will have in common is they don't fit with our motivational nature. But there's almost always an edit that we can do to our goals to make it more in line with our motivational nature. So like maybe you have some boring employee handbook or something that you're writing. And so on your to-do list, it says write employee handbook. And the thought of that, it probably feels aversive to you, right? It has characteristics of aversion, which there's also interesting research behind this concept of aversion, which leads to procrastination. But write employee handbook, that fits with the value of conformity, right? Because it feels like something we just have to do. And so we have to get it done. But maybe your biggest value is benevolence. So being kind to other people, serving other people, something as simple as editing that goal from being write employee handbook to mentor and guide and welcome new employees through handbook project. It might be the same set of actions that you take to achieve the goal, but what's different is how it's framed cognitively for yourself. And so there's an attractive nature that comes through with the goal, right? So if you have a goal to I don't know, get 6-pack abs by beach season or something, that fits with the goal of face, which is how you come across to other people. But maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't care how other people perceive you, but you value self. So my top 2 values are self-direction, going my own way, and pleasure. And so just be that sense pleasure, enjoying the burritos of life. The burritos of life. That would be a good memoir title. So a better goal for me, like I wouldn't be motivated in the slightest by get 6-pack abs by beach season, but a better goal for me might be to, experiment with 3 ways of eating to find the one that I enjoy the most or something. It can accommodate the goal and the original intention, but it fits with more of the different layers of intention in our life. This is why it takes a book to write about this, because there is a lot of meat here that we can do to shape our goals around what we value.
Well, and the really cool thing is that we now know that there's science, right? Like
Yeah,
Chris Bailey,
yeah.
you study the science behind this. You went into Google Scholar, you looked at the research to find out what it is about values, which everyone talks about. We all, companies have their values. Some homes have their values. We have values.
Yeah.
But there's research around that, and you can use that research and thinking through identifying what are your values, which then make it possible to craft goals that are in alignment with those values, which you then are more likely to be motivated to actually do, which then drive action to move you towards those goals.
Yeah.
Where do priorities fit into this? Does this help you then define define what your priorities are? Like, and that I had a discussion earlier today with a coaching client about this. That's why I'm curious. And where do priorities fit into this? Yeah,
priorities are an interesting part because of these different areas, there's the least amount of research on priorities.
Really?
Yeah. So when you look at the different areas of intentionality research. This picture begins to form. I call it the intention stack in the book, where essentially imagine a funnel looking thing where the values create. It's hard to. Maybe if you just Google intention stack, if you're listening to this, it'll come up. So values kind of create the depth of our intention. They create kind of the 3D architecture of our intention, to get all nerdy CAD about it, I guess.
Yeah.
and the different durations of time that we have to express our values, they're the width. And so priorities exist between our goals and our values. They're interesting in this way. And
say that
in
again?
a way, priorities exist between our goals and our values.
Got it. Okay.
And so priorities are shorter in duration than the values that we have, which take place across our entire life, but they're longer in duration than our goals. So our goals might, contribute. We might have a few goals that contribute to the same priority. Like health is a great example of a priority, because people ask, okay, where does health live on this list of values? Because you think, isn't it something that we all have bodies? We all have this physical manifestation. Where is this on this list of values? But anything that can be expressed through our values is a priority, if that makes sense. So some people might want better health as an achievement, right? They want to be fit, and they want their achievement to be their own fitness, right? How they look. Some people might really want to look good to other people, so their health is an expression of face. Other people might really want enough energy to be with their grandkids, and so their health becomes an expression of benevolence. Other people, this is what I find hilarious. When you have people who are, super jacked and really fit and have a low body fat percentage, some of them, they wear tight fitting clothes and, because you need to see their muscles. And others, they'll wear like baggy clothes, but they're super fit underneath. So for those people, it's an expression of humility, or that's a way humility is expressed. And so our values become this broader story that our priorities fit inside of. And so in the context of intention, a priority is bigger than a goal, but smaller than a value.
I find that super helpful. I'm looking at the intention stack in front of me here, which is really cool. Pulled it up. I'm going to read a little quote from the book just because it's fascinating to me. When a goal is aligned and connected with our daily actions and our strongest values, we fill out the full picture of a goal. When both of these things are in place, progress towards our goals becomes a change that is both remarkably tangible and also deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
I love that, because when it's meaningful to you, it changes it from being like a habit or a routine into an actual ritual, which then amplifies everything that you're doing.
Yeah. And this is, I think, where a goal becomes, on a lot of levels, beautiful. Where a goal in its truest form can be an expression of the values that we have, but also expressed through our daily actions. And so it becomes a vessel where our broadest values, our deepest, most important values to us in our life, can be expressed on a daily basis, and where change feels more meaningful to us. And I think and this was an interesting thing in writing this book. So I dug deep into the research of essentially the science of goal attainment, but I also chatted with a lot of Buddhist monks over the course of writing this book, because intentionality, you could only get so far with the research behind it. There are a lot of gaps in the research, and where better to turn to? I'm biased. I'm Buddhist. Where better to turn to than Buddhist monks who observe the causes and effects of the mind with regard to volition and choosing how we will act, right? And so what I remember asking one of the monks, where does intention come from? What a simple question. And frankly, I wasn't really getting anywhere from the research of it until I heard his answer and then connected a bunch of disparate parts of it. But he mentioned all the places that intention arises from our biology, right? We're on a road trip, need to go to the bathroom, so we set an intention to make a pit stop. It comes from our wanting to experience more pleasure in life and avoid pain in life. It comes from lessons we've learned in the past, which leads us to set different intentions later on. It comes from the social environments we're a part of, right? The families that we're in, the culture that we're in, the social contagion that we experience. And the most beautiful place, and the place that our deepest intentions tend to come from, is something called our self-reflective capacity, which is our ability to look within ourselves and ask questions of our inner world to really determine not only what we want and what we'll find meaningful, but take that step back and determine, okay, what would make this a productive day? What will allow me to contribute a lot today, accomplish a lot by these traditional measures of success as well? So these goals that we have, these intentions that we have, they're not only beautiful, like they're misunderstood, I think, as well. So another area that the Buddhist-y influence, I suppose, with intention was, what is a goal even? What is a goal? We see them as this story of change that we're trying to make to our life. But one of the most helpful reframes when it comes to what a goal even is, it's a story of change, but what it really is a prediction. A goal is a prediction of where we believe our current and our planned actions will take us. And I don't know if you've ever tried to predict the future, Greg, but we're horrible at it. Yeah. I don't know if you encounter many futurists or anything. I don't think there would be futurists if people followed up with them, because right. If we followed up with futurists, there wouldn't the profession wouldn't exist, because we're so bad at predicting the future. And the same is true when we look at ourselves as the subject in our own life, where we try to predict the future of, okay, where are my actions going to take us? I think I'm going to achieve this goal. And then, of course, we don't achieve it. And so what we saw as a goal is really a prediction in disguise, which turns into an expectation for how things will go, which, because we're so bad at predicting things, turns into disappointment at the end of that road.
Oh, that's
rinse,
frustrating.
Yeah.